Welcome to the Svarts DIY watch kit assembly video. In this step-by-step guide, we will walk you through the full process of assembling your very own mechanical wristwatch using the parts and tools included in your kit. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at each part of your kit and neatly laying them out. You will notice that on the first layer you will have the parts of the watch. And on the second layer you will see the manual and tools needed to assemble the watch. We will start off with the watch cushion. This will be where most of the watch will be assembled on. Your NH35 movement. This is an automatic movement with a date wheel complication. The watch case. Note that it includes a pre-cut watch stem inside. For cleaning, we'll use this dust blower. Next we have the dial on the one side and the hands and dial protector at the back. And then finally the watch straps. Now let's take a look at the second tray. Starting off with the case back opener. This will be your putty, also known as Rodico. A small cleaning cloth. And then here you will see 3 colored hand pushers and a spring bar tool. The black handle, here you will see a 8mm red tip and a 1.5mm black tip. Next up we have the silver handle with the 0.5 white tip and the 1mm black tip. And the final red hand pusher has a blue indent and a brass indent tip. The last tool is the spring bar tool with a pin and a fork tip. The last thing we need are the finger cots. So setting up your workspace in a clean, lint-free environment with good lighting, and we can get started. Start off by putting on the finger cots on each finger. These are very important as you don't want to touch the movement or any parts of the watch, as it could leave marks or cause parts to oxidize. Okay, now that all the parts are set out and ready, we'll start with the first step. We will break off a small part of Rodico. So unwrapping the yellow paper, you'll see this blue putty. Break off a small amount. The size of a fingertip should be good. Now make sure the area you'll work with is clean. Start by dusting off the watch cushion using your dust blower. Once that is done, we can remove the NH35 movement and place it on the watch cushion. Be very gentle as it is a fragile movement. When handling the movement, it is best to hold it on both sides or to use the blue dummy crown. Now looking at the movement, the dial side with the numbers on the date wheel and the back will be this freely moving rotor. Please be very careful of this part. It is called the balance wheel and avoid touching it at all cost. Now put the movement down with the blue dummy crown facing to your right and the date wheel facing up. We will start with attaching the dial. In this container you'll see that watch hands, the hour, the minute and the second hand, a plastic part called the dial protector, and then finally your watch dial. Now, when we look at the movement again, you'll see there is a small hole here at the 1 o'clock position and another at the 7 o'clock position. These will line up with the pins at the back of the dial and is how the dial will be secured to the movement. Now, to install the dial, place the movement onto your watch cushion, dial side up, and the blue crown at the right. This will match up with this notch over here on 3 o'clock. Align the feet of the dial with the corresponding holes on the movement. Make sure the notch at 3 o'clock aligns with the blue dummy stem. Press down very gently and make sure the dial sits flush and secure. You should not see any wobble or any gaps between the movement or the dial. Now, checking if there is any gap, we can see that it is flush all the way around. Again, be gentle with the balance wheel at the back. Right, now that the dial is secure, we can start with the next step, which is to set up these hands. You will have a minute, an hour, and a seconds hand. If you do have a date wheel and a date window, you'll need to set the watch to midnight first. If you do not, you can just align the hands to 12 o'clock in the following steps. If you do have a date window on your movement, you'll have to set the watch to midnight first. First, you have to pull out the crown all the way. This will put your watch into time setting position. Rotate it towards the 12 o'clock until you see that the date in the date window changes. This will mark midnight. Stop as soon as this date switches. I would recommend using this dial protector to protect your dial from any scratches. You can align it with the 12 o'clock and follow the rest of the steps the same way. However, for this video, I will not be using it. So, let's start with setting the hands. We will use this putty and this black handle hand pusher, the one with the grey and red tip. Set your putty into a point like this. After shaping your putty, you'll have to start with the hour hand. This will be your shortest hand. Gently pick it up using the Rodico. Do not use any tweezers as it might scratch the hands. Now putting the tip of the hour hand into the tip of the Rodico. We will use this hand pusher tool, the 1.5mm grey tip. Align the hour hand to 12 o'clock and gently push down until the hand clicks into place. Be very gentle as to not bend the hand. Now use the crown to rotate the hour hand around the dial to ensure that it's not touching or misaligned. The date should change again after 2 full rotations. Be sure to check your clearances. Next up is the minute hand, so we'll follow the same steps. Make the putty into a point, pick up the minute hand and align the tip of the minute hand here to the tip of the Rodico. I will be using the same tool, but you can also use the silver tool with the 1mm tip. Be very gentle and align it up with 12 o'clock again. Gently push it down until you feel a small click. Now we will make sure that the minute hand is not touching the hour hand or the dial. Always check your clearances when pushing down the hands. Now we will check that the date changes at 12 o'clock. The date might change 15 minutes before or 15 minutes after. This is completely normal. Now, starting with the second hand, we will pick it up using the Rodico and we will put the tip of the second hand into the tip of the Rodico. please be very patient with this step, as once your hand is bent, it is very difficult to fix. We'll use this red handle with the blue indent tip. Note your seconds hand does not need to be aligned with any specific number. Just align the small hole of the seconds hand with the small pin that comes from the center of the movement. If you believe your second hand to be installed correctly, you can pick up the movement and push in the blue dummy crown. Make sure your clearances are fine before you do that. If you push in the crown and wind it up a bit towards the 12 o'clock, your movement should start running and you should see your second hand start sweeping across the dial. Again, checking your clearances, making sure that none of the hands touch and that your dial is not touching any of the hands. Now we can take this case over here and unscrew the stem and crown. Once you pull out the stem, you'll have to open your box and look at the bottom layer. You will find the stem removal cushion. First, pull out the dummy crown when the second hand reaches around 12 o'clock, and then set the minute and hour hands to 12 o'clock as well. Once you're finished, place the movement face down on the stem removal cushion, ensuring these hands line up with the slot in the cushion. Now, using the rotor to protect the balance wheel at the back and pushing the blue dummy crown all the way back in. Use the pin tip of your springboard tool to gently press this release lever while you gently hold the movement down. Pull out the dummy crown with little resistance. Now we have to place the movement into the case. So we'll use the case back opener to open the back of the case, aligning the pins with the holes at the back. Make sure you do not lose this O-ring on the inside. If it does come out, just pop it back into place and clean off your fingertips to avoid getting the O-ring grease on the watch. Remember that this stem hole will be on the right hand side where the 3 o'clock is. Before inserting a movement, blow out any dust from inside the case and on the movement and dial. Align the movement with the case, especially the 3 o'clock position where the crown should enter. Now that we can see that the 3 o'clock is aligned with the stem hole, we can gently flip over the movement and gently push down from the middle of the rotor. We can now insert the new crown and stem. If the crown and stem do not go in easily, it could be that they are not aligned. To fix this, we can put it down on the watch cushion, and using a springboard tool, we can push against the plastic spacer, turning the dial and movement right into place. Keep in mind that the stem and crown should push in relatively easy. Once it is properly inserted, make sure the movement is well in place and doesn't move around. Make sure the crown cannot be pulled out again, and make sure the rotor moves freely. Now, cleaning up the case back, and we'll blow away any dust from inside the movement and the back of the case back before we screw it down. Make sure to move the rotor and blow out any dust from under any part of the movement. First, gently screw down with your hand, and then once tightened, you can tighten the last bit using the case back opener. Avoid using the case back opener from the beginning, as you can damage the threads on the inside. Now that I've tightened it with my hands, I will use the case back remover to tighten it fully, aligning these holes with the pins on the case back opener. You can roll the silver wheel to make the case back opener wider or narrower. Now that the case back is tightened, we will check the watch's functions. First, unscrew the crown and try winding the crown in the first position. You should hear a faint gear noise. Pull the crown to the second position and you should see that you can change the date once you rotate to the 6 o'clock. Putting it to the final position is the time setting position. As you can see, the hour and minute hand should rotate freely and the second hand should stop. Once you push it back in, the second hand should start again and you can screw down the crown. Now let's attach the straps or bracelet to the watch. First, we'll use the spring bar tool with a fork and a pin tip. Using the fork tip, we will remove the spring bars from the lugs of the watch. Just gently push down on the edges of the spring bar, which will shorten the spring bar and make them come loose. Be careful as they can shoot out. Okay, now we will fit these spring bars into the holes on the strap ends. You could push down on the table if you struggle getting them in. Now that the spring bars have been inserted to the straps, we can attach the straps to the case. So the longest arm should be at 6 o'clock and the arm with the buckle should be at the 12 o'clock. We will first turn the case and the watch strap over, and we will attach the spring bars from the back to avoid scratches to the front of the watch. Using the spring bar tool and the fork point, we can gently push down the spring bars into the small holes on the inside of the watch case. Once the 12 o'clock is attached, we will go to the 6 o'clock and attach the longer arm. The same process applies where we push the spring bars into the holes on the inside of the watch lugs. Once they feel secure, give them a good tug to make sure that they will not come loose. And there you have it. Before you wear your new watch, here's a final checklist. Make sure the hands are aligned and do not touch. The movement is secure. The crown works smoothly. The strap is attached securely. The time and date functions work correctly. And if you turn the watch over, make sure that the rotor can rotate freely at the back.